Hey everyone, let's talk Fortune's Weave. Between the direct trailer and the small bits of information and clips dropped here and there, I think it is time that we dive into the various aspects of the game, what we know already, what we don't know already, and of course, whether we should be really mad and angry about it online. Or we can just chill and see what happens, because it's not like it's going to change anything about the game anyway. Before we dive into today's topic, let's talk about something that's going to be important for this series, and has always been important for this series. Well, when I say series, I kind of mean Fire Emblem, but I also mean this series of videos that I plan on making. Being good or bad in general. I feel like when someone talks about whether some aspect of a game is good or bad, it's not always clear what it's good or bad for. Something the game does could be good for sales, it could be good for gathering hype, it could be good because it makes the game more fun to play, it could be good because it makes the story deeper and more interesting, it could be good because it improves the game as a piece of art, it could be good for me because it aligns with my personal tastes on what I want out of a game, or it could be good because a lot of people like it, perhaps not me included. These are things that have to be balanced precariously by various people and companies with varying amounts of influence on what the final product is like. In this video and these videos, I'm going to try to be specific on whether I'm talking about my personal preferences or whether something is good for mass appeal or something else entirely. And I'd recommend you do too when you're arguing on the internet. It helps a lot. With all that in mind, let's talk about a potential route split. This is all but confirmed in the latest trailer.
Guide whichever character you choose to victory as they weave their own unique tale.
And it makes sense, at least from a marketing perspective. There's something about different houses, different starting Pokemon, different teams that gets people buzzing. It can invoke a sort of tribalism in people even before the game releases, and then it goes tenfold after. In an attention economy, this is one of the best ways to get people talking and keep people talking about the game. It's hard to prove that people talking about, like, Edelgard versus Dimitri made X more people buy the game, but on the other hand, if exposure didn't work, then companies wouldn't pay tons of money for advertisements. I do wonder if there's ever a cap on the effectiveness of this technique, like, at some point you would think the same trick would stop working, but if that point exists, I don't think we've reached it yet. Now, we have a lot to gain from a potential route split, in terms of how it can improve the experience of playing the game if it's done well. If the game is divided into 4 distinct routes with their own developments, that means we have 4 cakes instead of 1, which would be great. Even if they are just the same story told from 4 different perspectives, that can be a very interesting thing to experience. I'm sure I'm not the only one who consumes the same media multiple times, and this would add a lot to the replay value, even if the gameplay is similar or even identical. As much as I'm hoping for the best case scenario where it's done exactly as I would love it to be, the track record for Fire Emblem in this regard is not great. Fates had a 3-way route split with a shared but short introduction and then 3 routes that were pretty different, although some story parts and maps were copy-pasted across multiple routes. And then there's 3 houses. Part 1, White Clouds, is the same story told from 3 different perspectives. A lot of people didn't like how repetitive this is, and I have mixed feelings on it myself because White Clouds is the part of 3 houses that I enjoy the most, and I do think the subtle differences in how the protagonists of the game experience the events of White Clouds are interesting. But with roughly 80% of the content being the same, I really hope Fortune's Weave goes for a different approach than 3 houses. There's a developer interview out there where they say they were really surprised that people were going to play their game more than once, which is crazy to me considering they had 4 different routes and a new Game Plus feature. But for me, the biggest disappointment in 3 Houses' route split is not the repetition in Part 1, but the repetition in Part 2. The 4 different routes felt more like 2.5 different routes. Azure Moon, Verdant Wind, and Silver Snow play out almost the exact same, with only Crimson Flower actually changing things up. But then Crimson Flower itself still reuses a lot of maps from other routes, though at least it changes the scenarios up a bit and clearly has different events play out. It all feels very undercooked, which rhymes poorly with the fact that the game was delayed twice. It really shows that they bit off more than they could chew in 3 Houses, and while that didn't stop most people from enjoying it, it's also clearly not as great as it could have been. In that sense, I'm a little worried about the route split that is on the horizon for Fortune's Weave. there is a limited amount of people that can dedicate a limited amount of development time to this game. Far be it from me to tell someone how to make a game, but if I had to make a choice between a single well-made route or 4 half-baked ones, I would choose the former in a heartbeat. I'm not saying that a single route is a guarantee for perfection or even good quality, but it makes things so much easier on them if they only have to worry about one route. On the other hand, we have 4 different protagonists on our hands who each seem to have their own goals and motivations. And if they are crammed into a single route, there's also the possibility that they don't get enough time in the spotlight if they're forced to share. I think, theoretically, the best way for them all to be in a single route is a Radiant Dawn-esque approach, where they all get a small portion of the game dedicated to them and their arc. I don't think this is very likely to happen because it's not been done since, well, Radiant Dawn, and it's pretty unlike the approach that Three Houses took. But I think it would feel better than having all 4 protagonists in the same room, each taking turns to give their thoughts on everything. You know, the whole stand in a circle thing that Three Houses does. And also kind of what Engage does at times with its massive number of royals. In the short trailers and screenshots that we've seen, there's also the presence of other characters who may or may not be tied to specific protagonists. It's been revealed that you can recruit other allies in the hub world, and it's possible that, like in Three Houses, you can get people from other factions on your side. There's also this really strange info droplet about time travel, which was not in any trailer, but instead was mentioned on Nintendo's game listing for Fortune's Weave. I actually cannot find the original source for it anymore on Nintendo's website, but it has been copy-pasted all over the internet by shops and Reddit posts, which makes me think this is either false information, or information that was not supposed to be out there yet. Either case is pretty unlikely. Honestly, I think time travel is a pretty messy way to tell a story, and I would much prefer if a story sticks to its guns, instead of an optional redo of everything. I just think it lowers the stakes, and I much prefer it if the writers say, this is the story we want to tell. It would be a very convenient way to play out events multiple times from different perspectives, or to see what 4 protagonists are doing in 4 different places at the same time. But you also don't need time travel to do that, unless you need a single character to be in multiple places at once, which could be what that cloaked avatar character is doing, but that's a subject I want to leave for another video. Anyway, I'm hoping to keep these videos a little shorter and simpler, so I can make them faster, since there's a lot of thoughts I would like to get out there. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.